Have you ever an issue that you felt strongly about, but it wasn't reaching the public the way you needed it to? I have a problem like that because I want everyone to be prepared for the end of civilization. Or at least be prepared for more likely disasters like supervolcanoes, hurricanes, or simply economic hardships. But it's not easy to get people interested in their own preparedness, especially when it involves boring stuff like collecting canned goods, batteries, or putting together an escape plan if your house catches on fire. So how do you get people interested in their own personal preparedness? I'm one of the founders of a nonprofit organization based out of St. Louis, Missouri called Zombie Squad. Our mission is to encourage people to take preparedness seriously by using a method that doesn't take itself seriously. So many of you may have noticed that zombies have had a recurrence in public cult in our media lately. And we're continuing to see invasions of the undead and dramatize the chaos that would occur if our society collapsed because of it. And Zombie Squad is based on the premise that if we can encourage people to be prepared for this worst-case scenario, mobs of zombies in the streets trying to eat you alive, you'll be prepared for just about anything. So a little over a decade ago, this was in 2003, my friends and I were spending summer evenings watching bad zombie movies, which usually led to the discussion about how we might survive a zombie uprising. And one of those evenings, the idea came up that we should start our own zombie survival club. So against our better judgment, we took the idea and we ran with it. We started hosting zombie movie-themed parties and events to get our friends together and encourage the discussion about preparedness, as well as raise money for local charities. We also put together a website, of course, and to continue the discussion about zombie movies, as well as preparedness topics like canning, gardening, do-it-yourself projects, ham radio, anything related to being ready in the event that we may not be able to depend on society. This drew people from outside of St. Louis who also shared our love for bad movies, as well as being prepared for this worst-case scenario. But something that we noticed right away was that discussions about survivalism or preparedness topics could very quickly devolve into divisive arguments about politics or the causes of man-made disasters. So we made the organization very strictly non-religious and non-political. We actually outright banned these topics from our community. So as you can imagine, some people were unhappy with this, but in the end, we made it more welcoming and inviting, as well as more inclusive to a larger demographic. So this also had a second benefit. By asking people to leave their politics at the door, it helped us to separate from some of the public perception about preparedness groups around this time, that they're all paramilitary or ideological extremists. So between the movie, between our local events and our website, we were pulling together a large group of people that were working together to donate to and volunteer at local charities, as well as support each other to be more prepared for emergencies. So we also noticed that the zombie movie was reaching people in a way to draw them into preparedness in a way that charity organizations and government agencies were previously not reaching them. So what is it about the zombie movie that spoke to them? So let's consider the zombie. Why do we like zombie movies? Well, they're fun. The tongue-in-cheek, campy humor is a staple of the genre. And there isn't much more terrifying than cannibalistic monsters that used to be your friends and family. And we can also relate to the protagonist characters in these movies, who are usually just average people going about their lives, who are thrown into a horrific situation that requires them to think on their feet. And lastly, the large-scale havoc caused by a zombie uprising is a perfect metaphor for the large-scale disaster caused by people or nature going crazy. The simplicity of the zombie movie allows it to continue to change and reflect our fears, to show that here is a highly scientific chart that shows the percentage of zombie movies made each year compared to regular movies. So in the 30s, the first zombie movies arrive. On the tails of popular Dracula and Frankenstein movies, We have stories of voodoo zombies controlled by a sinister Haitian plantation owner. And these movies were largely influenced by stories that came back from American soldiers after the occupation of Haiti. And we can see some commentary in these films about racism and colonialism. So in the 40s, this is during World War II, so we have some movies where the zombies are created and used by Nazis. In the 50s and 60s, this is during the atomic age and the unknowns of space exploration. So we have zombie monsters that are created by aliens or science gone bad. In 1968, this is at the height of the Cold War and the Vietnam War. The zombie movie is reinvented into what most of us think of today, which is an epidemic of walking corpses driven only by the need to kill and eat the living. So this was a big change from previous zombie movies where the monsters were controlled and created by a central villain. Now we have an uncontrollable force of nature that reproduces itself by devouring the living. So this was also a good social commentary about our own self-destruction. So there's a continuation of this commentary about our own self-destruction in the 70s and 80s, ranging from rampant consumerism to conspiracies in our own government. There's a dip in zombie movie interest in the 90s, but there's still plenty made. They're going straight to video. But this is also after the Cold War, so our fears have gone down a bit. But then at the beginning of this century, zombie movie increases. This was around the time that we see a reinvention of the zombie again into the form of running zombies, which brings fear back into the genre. But this is also the time that our collective anxiety have increased due to global instability from wars, climate change, and of course the internet is giving us unfiltered access to horrible things happening all over the world. So the zombie movie continues to change and reflect our fear, so it makes a great tool to bring awareness and motivate people to be more prepared in a fun way. So around this time, we see the zombie movie increase. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hits the Gulf. So this was a turning point for Zombie Squad, as many of us were volunteering with relief agencies, so we were getting stories about the destruction and displacement firsthand. And also, this was before social media websites popular like Facebook and Twitter. So for many people in our online community, they were sharing their stories as it was happening for those that were affected by the disaster. And people in our community were also supporting and helping each other where they could. So this impacted us, and we wanted to support the effort in a financial way, but in a larger way than we could locally. So we pulled some of our money together and purchased Zombie Squad-themed dog tags as an incentive to get our online community to donate to this effort. In the end, we ended up raising more than 10 times the amount we could have on our own. So this small thing highlighted the difference to us between acting as individuals versus pulling a community together to act with us. So we can be prepared for disasters ourselves. We can donate to local charities and volunteer relief agencies, but to really make an impact, to make a difference, we need to outreach and encourage other people to do the same. So thanks to the motivation of Zombie Squad community, we put together a series of zombie movie-themed public service announcement videos and zombie survival seminars, and we took these productions to sci-fi conventions, neighborhood meetings, schools, bars, anywhere we can get people to sit and listen to us. So speaking of, to give you some perspective, here is a zombie movie scenario that we might use in one of our seminars. So let's imagine. It's Friday, you're relaxing at home, having a glass of wine, and listening to Marketplace tell you that your stocks are doing fine. But then it happens. The smooth sound of Kai Ryssdal's voice is interrupted by the piercing wail of the emergency alert system. The news anchor informs you that the flu virus they've been reporting on all week has been spreading in a very unexpected way. Citizens are instructed to remain home, but to facilitate compliance, a little martial law has been put in place. Of course, this isn't news to you, because social media apps have already told you what's actually going on. It's been confirmed that the bodies of the recently deceased are returning to life and attacking the living. Telecommunication networks are flooded and unstable. Riots and chaos have taken over the streets. Dogs and cats are living together. It's mass hysteria. But you remain calm. You board up your windows, and hold out in your home and wait for the emergency to blow over. You and your family sit back, relax, and watch the news for updates. Everything will be fine. Of course, while there's a highly contagious strain of a deadly virus for you to worry about, Mother Nature tags in with a series of winter storms. There are power outages across the region, the water main in your neighborhood is frozen and broken, and of course there's the moaning zombies outside driving you crazy. But no problem, you have blizzards covered. You all remember the winter storms in 2006 in St. Louis that knocked out power for 500,000 area residents for a few weeks. So you've thought ahead and you have plenty of extra food and water on hand. So you light up that propane heater and turn on your battery-powered radio to keep up with the news. Later, while the kids are complaining about having spam for the third time this week, you hear on the radio that fires are erupting all over town. Area residents are resorting to unsafe home heating measures, and the grocery stores in town have been cleaned out. You also hear that local shelters are overwhelmed by the number of people in need of their services for such a long time. Attempts to resupply have been delayed thanks to the weather and, of course, the growing mass of undead blocking the streets. Residents are being asked to remain home and donate what they can. But your pantry is dwindling, so you can't risk giving up food. That evening, no one complains about having spam for dinner. The next morning, you're woken up to the smell of smoke. You run outside and you see fires are erupting all over town. And thanks to high winds, they're heading your way. So you grab the supplies you've already gathered in case this happened. The streets are blocked by snow and fallen trees, so you have to head out on foot. You go to a local shelter, to try to get out of the streets, but they are full and not enough room left for you and your family. Because the community wasn't ready for the need, you and your family are stuck on the streets. So as you stand there in the snow, the sun sets, and the zombies close in. So that was fun. So we may or may not have survived. That doesn't matter, because life's about the journey and not the destination. But the point we're trying to get across is it's important to be prepared, but it's just as important to have a well-prepared community around you. So Zombie Squad has used this as a way to hopefully get people to really think about their own situation. So the organization is now made up of a large, all-volunteer organization made up of chapters all over North America, okay, most of the US and a couple in Canada, but we're expanding. And the zombie twist has given us a great tool to reach a demographic that charity organizations have traditionally had a hard time reaching, which are usually those between 18 and 35, which I'm no longer part of. But to show that, here is some demographics collected from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics that shows the percentage of donors for each age group. And I'm just overlaying that with the age demographics and Zombie Squad members in the United States. So this zombie twist was originally turned some organizations off until they saw the results of our charity drives. And they started taking it more seriously when we were showing the results as well as the percentage of first-time donors to things like blood drives. So we now see the zombie metaphor used all over the place. It's even being rubber-stamped by the government as federal, state, and local agencies are all using the zombie shtick as a way to raise awareness for various issues. These are all real things, by the way. Your tax dollars at work. But so what's a takeaway from our story? First, you want to address the negative perceptions that the audience may have about your mission and try to separate those negative perceptions to make it more welcoming and inviting. For us, there was a public perception about preparedness groups that they're all paramilitary or ideological extremists. So we helped separate ourselves by making the organization very strictly non-political to make it more inclusive for a larger group of people. And next, the message is boring. We all have busy lives, but I strongly believe we want to be more ready for emergencies, and we enjoy the feeling of helping out in our community, but it's not always our highest priority. So by taking the disaster preparedness message and tying it into a form of entertainment the public already enjoys, we made that prioritization easier. So if your message isn't reaching the audience the way you need it to, find out what motivates them about your message and why. So sure, Zombie Squad didn't start with a message and try to find an audience. We already had a fun thing to do with the public, and we did something positive with that. So if you already have a way to engage the public, then do something positive with that and help in your community. So let's go back and see how things might turn out in our community in our zombie movie scenario if we had taken more steps to raise awareness. And so here we say a happy, well-prepared community working together to rebuild. So tomorrow could be the end of civilization, but it doesn't have to be the end of humanity. Until the next crisis, but we'll figure that out together. Thank you.